All right, so we're going to continue on with our little BMI calculator, and in getting more familiar with this interface, if you bring up the view of your phone, the storyboard, we can change the size of this screen. So down below, it by default it was set to any. So you guys had it set like this, and we had it centered on that. Where did it go? We said there it go. But when it went to a small screen, it was offset, because it truncated it on the right, and it made it look like it was all pushed to the right. So what we want to do is make this the entire square. So you can drag this around. Far to the left is a portrait iPhone. That's the typical. Up a little bit is the older iPhones that were shorter. So if we select the biggest one, it seems to be, if I can get it to go, regular, and then you reposition these guys to be centered on this screen, and you can tell if you select everything and move it back and forth, you get a guideline, and that's
about the enema bag.
Yeah, I got the enema bag right there. All right.
So what you didn't want to know about Tom?
You can send that to Tom, and that'll be Tom's lecture for the day.
Yeah, really.
See,
I want to
Man,
learn now.
jeez.
Make that screen split and get rid of.
How do you make it split?
View mode.
It depends. Oh, how do you get the file structure? So over here, they've got navigation everywhere on this thing. So these here show the left-hand side. So see that little gray square? So if I click that and it's blue now, I'm seeing the file structure. And in the file structure tab, I've got all of this nav.
Errors.
All kinds of different things that I can look at. So if I want to hide that to get more screen real estate, I hide that. Then we can hide and show the bottom output window, or the left-hand or the right-hand window, which are the property windows, and that gives me more real estate. And then in the middle, the split screen shows these two circles. So if we usually just leave it the way it is, and it changes based on what I'm displaying. So if I have my file structure open and I go look at this app delegate, it's got that, well, now it's going to crash probably on me. Yep.
Yeah, I clicked wrong, and it just.
I have a little warning saying position is ambiguous for calling you.
Position is ambiguous. Over in your view controller? I don't know. But, I don't know. So let me, if it's just a warning, we'll look at it later. Let's run this. So I recentered my thing with this width and height of regular, and now it looks correct, right? That's a lot nicer.
That didn't work on mine.
It didn't work for me.
Really?
No.
You have to recenter this.
Yeah, I did. I went to a different size and it looks okay now. Because that says that's for iPad.
Yeah. The other option is to go to the smaller compact width
Yeah, I think that's pretty good.
for width and height, and that'll work the same way.
Mine said regular, different than standard, but
So go to what simulator are you running? The 6S Plus, like I am?
6S Plus.
Yeah. then change the width to the far left, so you're getting the real small, older style iPhone. That should work.
The benefit of having only certain devices that the software runs on.
Yes, yes. So there's other ways I think that we can make these stretch, and I haven't got those yet, but this at least makes it a little better. So now the other thing I wanted to talk about was I hated having these text fields invisible. I mean, how do you know there's a text field there?
Yeah, mine has a faint line.
Mine is, unless it's just shrunk too far down that it's not. So let's zoom it.
Border style option.
Yep. So here's
Mine
my.
was shown by default automatic.
So yeah, so there's a really faint line, but when it's zoomed up, it's really painful to see. So for that, we can go and change the properties of the control itself. So if you click on the control, you can, and make sure you have the right-hand tab open. You can change all kinds of stuff. There's a border style, which is, this is a rounded border. You can change the color of the background. So we could make this a light gray, for instance. That would really show that it's a button.
You could do
But-
that. So could you make that change? Like if you select the other field, it grays out the other one?
Yeah. So these are all properties that we can get at programmatically as well. So what I want to do, I'm going to make the background of my entire app. So clicking on the white space and make the background of the entire app this light gray. So that makes them really stand out. Or I could make it blue, which I like, light blue or something like that. How about that? Light blue. So now, at least I can see the controls a little nicer on the screen. Okay? So, you can change all kinds of stuff with those properties. So the next thing we wanted to do was yeah, for this you can just stretch it to make the buttons bigger. I'm recording it now. And then you can change the the font is available in the others. Why is it not available here? That's interesting. Yeah, it won't let me. Wonder if that's a... Nope. That's strange. There might be a property still that we could get at programmatically, but not through the interface. All right, so what I wanted to do was to have the calculation happen whenever they clicked the segmented control or this radio button kind of thing. So if I click on world and well, let's show you. In my simulator, if I put in my weight and my height, and do the calculation, that's my BMI. Then if I want to see what it is in America, I want this to recalculate without having to hit the calculate button again. Right? Wouldn't that be nice? Just like on the Android side, when we click the radio buttons, we want it to go calculate. So right now, the calculate only happens when I click the calculate button. Right? And if you hover over these little circles, these are the connections between the code and the control on the screen. So that just lets me see, okay, that's the button. It's going to this function. And now, instead of doing this calculation, I want to do this calculation when they hit the segmented control. So this is when the location has changed. This method is going to be called on the control. So it would be nice if I could just call my BMI, calculate BMI, right? Because it does all the calculations. It goes out to the text fields again, gets the data, puts them back, and does the calculation based on what was selected again, and that should work fine. Now, when I first did this, I had made my calculate pass additional information, like the sender, like we did here. And I could not make this straight call from my segmented control listener to the other method because there was nothing to pass. And you can't pass a null or a nil. It won't let you. So if this had a value, dang it. If this had a value and I wanted to pass nothing, it still wouldn't let me do that. So I ended up, the first time I wrote this, making another method like we did in the Android side so that this guy called the method and this guy called the same method.
Why do you need to pass this?
Yeah, I don't. So my calculate BMI doesn't do anything with the object that's being sent, so I don't need that. And then consequently, I don't have to pass it anything, and I can go right there. So that should work.
Take out the argument.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you did have the argument, you can take it out. So let's try it again. Put in a height.
Yeah, it's like no one usually knows I had
And a weight. Calculate, and now I hit America, and it does the calculation right when I click the button.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, isn't that cool? Here's crashes. So is it that same crash that we were getting before? So if you just so let's try that. If I just take the argument out of my change location, and yeah, that's fine. I don't have that, so I'm not going to get the crash. But I'm using it here. Let's go the other way. Let me add an argument. And we'll have it pass any object and see if this will crash. Well, now I can't call my calculate. But I want to show you. Keyboard won't respond. So now, if I click the calculate button, I'm getting the same error that you're getting, right, Sergey?
Yeah.
So this is what happens when I get an error, and it shows me the stack. This is what was running going down, so that this is when the application first started up, is way down here at the bottom, and it goes all the way up to the top, and we can see that it was trying to send an action, and it found a problem not recognizing that So the issue was that I changed the code in my controller code, but now that makes my connection between these broken. As soon as I changed that, it didn't know where that connection was anymore. So I have to fix that. I have to reconnect those. So the first thing we need to do is make sure that this connection is gone. And to do that, up in the upper right-hand corner, if I select my button, instead of the properties, I want to look at the connections inspector. This is the little circle with the arrow in it. And we have a connection already built, but we broke it because we changed the properties. So we want to kill this one. So I click on this little X button. That kills the connection. And then I can reconnect these two back together again. So I right-click and drag to where it turns blue the entire function. And so now I have a method. It created a new connection between the two. And so if you ever get that kind of an error, it almost always is a connection failure.
Take the argument out and reconnect.
Yes. So this should work. If I calculate, yep, I get a nan. Do you guys know what a nan is?
I don't know.
Not a number. Very good.
Without JavaScript.
Yeah, JavaScript. You get a lot of those. And then I can click back and forth, and it's all working happily. Actually, well, it's not actually because I commented this out. But now I can go back and add my function to call. And my little simulator should work. And it shows that Americans are fatter than the world. So, isn't that cool?
I mean, they're fatter, I guess.
Isn't that amazing? So, the next thing, let's go back and add a status like we did on the Android side that showed, based on the calculation, printed out whether they were fat or not. Okay, so underweight, normal, overweight, that kind of thing. So we need to have a new label over here. So we go to our objects. This is like the Visual Studio drag and drop. And let's add a label. And we'll center it here at the bottom. And we'll also make this as wide as the screen. And we will, how would I center this text now in here?
Do like a property.
Yep, so I have to go back to the properties, which is this little slider, looks like a slider, and change my alignment to center. And let's make this a little bigger too. Maybe not too big. 24. All right, so we have a label, and I need to have some way of connecting that together because I'm going to change it. If it's just a label like this, I don't need a connection between my controller and the view. But since it's something I'm going to change, I do. So just like we created these labels, I'm going to right-click on it and drag to create a new connection, and it's just an outlet, and we will call it a label status. How about that? So now I have a variable in my code that I can change this text for, which we've already done before. So let's write a method in Swift that is called get BMI status. How about that? And we need to pass it what? What type of data are we going to pass this? Just like we did in the Android, I'm going to send it the BMI value, and I want to get back a string that says they're overweight or not. So what do I pass?
You're sending it a value?
A value.
You need to get the BMI.
BMI, okay, good. And it's of type double. But now I want it to return a string. So how do I do that in Swift?
The little rocket.
Yeah, the little rocket, all right? I want to return a string, and we will do something like create a string. Well, let's just call it var status equals
I see
nothing.
my screen that way. I don't know if it's easier to read the code view.
Oh, it might be.
Probably up in the view. I don't know.
So all the controls right on the bottom right there.
You don't remember how you did it, huh?
Would it be under window?
No.
It's like they went to every ID ever and were like, how do these do it?
Yeah,
Sure,
I know.
everything's in a different spot.
Well, I'll figure that out. That might be a lot better. So I need a status string that I'm going to fill in, and then at the very bottom of my code, I'm going to return the status. And so that works, but now I need to do something based on that BMI, right? So let's,
Big ol' long if statement.
we could do a bunch of if statements, or
You just like
they,
that.
huh?
Oh.
How about case statements?
Yeah, let's do a case statement.
But case statements, aren't they the same as if statements though?
They are. They are exactly the same. It's just easier to write than if, else if, else if, else if.
Yeah, but that's the only one I remember.
Oh.
So that close off the case and then
Yeah, exactly.
I would already be done.
I'm the same way.
All right, let's do if, else if, else ifs then. It's fine.
The little circle
You don't
within
have to,
circle.
no, you don't have to, I was just,
Which
On
one?
the right, the icon has a circle within a circle on the bottom.
Here we go. Editors on the bottom.
no, you should do a case
If
statement.
you hide that output window at the bottom, it gives more space.
Interesting.
Is there a way to
That
like
might work.
choose?
Get rid of all of that stuff.
Yeah, I just hide everything.
Yep. There we go.
How do you find it?
Now we're coding.
Now we're coding. So if the BMI is less than 16, I want to set my status to severely underweight. Else, if BMI is less than 18, we'll have status equals severe, just underweight. Else, if BMI is less than, I don't remember the numbers anymore, like 22, then my status is going to be normal. Else if, come on, else if my BMI is less than 26, I want my status to be overweight. And then a final else should cover everything. My status is going to be severely overweight. Right? That sounds good. And finally, once all that's done, I'm going to return the status. So I need to call this. Where would I call this method in my code that I have so far?
The button.
When they do a calculation, right?
Yeah.
So after I've done the calculation, I have a BMI, and I want to get that BMI. So I want to, and well, let's do it the long way just to show.
Pretty
Get.
sure most everybody's gonna become severely obese in your,
Probably.
okay, I think there's some logic in this.
No, I don't think so.
Well, if they're 15, then they're gonna hit all of those cases.
No.
So it's less
It
than.
skips it. Once this one hits, it skips the rest of the else's.
Oh, so, thanks.
Yep, so it should work. And then how do we set, we have a label pointer called label status. And we need to set the text of that. Text is my status. All right? And they're saying, warning, 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 this should be a let because you're never changing it.
They never mutated it.
Never mutated it. We don't have zombies here. So let's run it. And I've got this nice little label here. And let's put in
It's gonna tell you the
height of 70 and 175. And calculate it, and we're overweight. In America, we're severely overweight. So that's good. So it's all working pretty good. If I make my height bigger and change back and forth, now I'm severely underweight.
Text on your label seems chopped off.
Yes, it does. So
And you're gonna turn off the initial label.
yes, so that's the so that's working. Our logic is working.
Yeah.
So let's change our label to nothing. That would be one way to do it. It's harder to find. And we can stretch our box so that it has more room to display the junk in it. And it works better. Isn't that cool? Nice. All right, any questions on any of that? Wasn't that fun?
Absolutely.
Anything else we can do to our app here now?
Put a picture on the buttons instead of text.
And a store log, right?
Yeah, we'll move on. We'll do that next week.
Give it a background image.
So, yeah, we could try an image. Let's see. Let's see if there's a control for an image, so we can just put an image on their page.
Image view. Did I just see image view? Or did I just imagine it?
There it is. So we can put an image view up here, and we can say what has to happen is that we have some resources in our file. So we need an image. Let's go steal an image from the internet somewhere here.
A scale or a Star Trek red shirt would work.
No, I'll get in trouble with copyrights.
Ooh.
Not if you're not posting it.
Skinny image. Oh dear Lord, that was not what I wanted.
There was a severe.
Oh my
Wait,
God, that was not happy. Woof. Sorry about that, guys.
Type in did. I'm gonna call the host.
Some of you are not sorry I did that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Human resource, yeah.
how about skinny icon? That's
You're
not
still gonna get
too much
cheese.
better. Oh my God.
Like a,
There's not too much better. How about this? This is nice and.
Or how about just the scale, the blue scale in the middle?
Oh, all right. There we go. Let's.
Or unless you're planning to change it based on the BMI result.
No.
Okay.
So we'll call this a scale. And we'll put it in my downloads.
That one's pretty safe.
And on the Mac, just like on Windows, since Windows stole everything from the Mac, they have a downloads folder, and they have this cute little
this thing.
expando
Windows does not
thing.
have the cute little
No, they don't have the cute stuff, but
No, but I can find stuff, so.
they stole it. So we can either do that, or you can right-click on here and say Open Downloads. And then we could look at, find our scale. And let's drag our scale over here. And I'm going to let it create a folder if necessary. It doesn't need to have one. So now I've got a scale ping in here. And on our storyboard, let's make this background an image. So how do we do that? Good question. I'm not sure we can do it straight from, oh no, here we can. There we go. So under the image view, the image we want, it finds all of the images in my project. So I'm going to have it do the scale. Look at that.
And it's stretched.
It's stretched all big.
You have scale to fill.
It's not transparent. So it's
Well, that looks good like that.
All right, so that should work just like that.
Where did you drag the image?
Into the project structure over here.
Somewhere in that folder?
Yeah,
Yeah, see.
anywhere inside of that folder.
Yeah,
Look at that. It's not transparent, but you guys know Photoshop, so you can go make it transparent.
No, you don't. I don't.
You should.
I think I know less about Photoshop.
That's
than
what
I
you
did
do.
in class. But,
I can't help that. If you don't want to learn, I can't help you.
hey, it's great. There's
So
like-
the problem is, what did I do with my
there's like
label?
10,000 more buttons.
Yeah. My label is under my image.
Right.
So
Just move,
they,
move it down.
yeah, I could move it down.
Good job.
The other one is kind of, there it is. It's kind of hard to see since I made
So
it
can you
blank.
just leave your label, like leave it on your label, and then when you initialize the program, turn it off? So that you can see it while you're working with it? Like programmatically.
Sure.
Turn it off.
Sure. So let's do that.
Yeah, put label.
Let's
back.
put label back in. We'll call it status label.
Yeah.
And then let's
Move it up.
move it up a little bit, yeah. And if you play with this, you notice it tries to
Snap.
keep a good distance between everything. And it's so much easier than the layouts in Android. Oh dear Lord, those things drive me nuts.
Yeah.
So, where does this program start up that I have access to this label?
Isn't there a method when it starts up?
They're like,
There's a method in the main delegate up here, but it doesn't have access to the view yet.
they're like the regular view thing.
So our view controller does, though. It has like an on create on the Android side. So we call this super view did load, and right here then I can say my label status dot text is nothing. Does that make you feel better, Shelly?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if that works.
I appreciate that. It's the little things in
It's
life.
the little things, yes. Look at that.
Nice.
Beautiful.
What did it say before?
The problem was in the
The
view,
design
I did this, made it blank, right? And so it kind of hides it on the screen. So this makes it a little easier to see where everything is. Status label. And programmatically then we change it right when it starts up. And that fixes it. That looks good. All right?
What about the NAND?
How about the NAND? Well, good. Let's see, what can we do with the NAND? So the calculate does, because it did that because I calculated with nothing in here. Now at least it doesn't crash like the Android side, but I need to do something in here.
If there's nothing in
This
there.
is where it's trying to format BMI Calc.
So you can do an if, or you just hide that text field if it, until a certain point.
You're gonna have to do some sort of like try catch business.
Yeah, somehow I don't know if I can do. It would be nice if I could just do.
But if the fields are empty, you just put
If either field is empty.
empty field.
Oh, is nan? Look at that.
Oh, there is one?
If it's a nan, then I'm gonna set my BMI Calc
That makes it easier. I just know there isn't one that is in.
to 0. And it's always safer to put braces around these guys. All right.
Well, do you want it to be 0 or do you want it to just not show anything?
It doesn't like your answer.
Yeah. So yeah, I want it to show 0. I guess it's up to you guys what you want to do. But so what is this error? I changed it now, and I've mutated that sucker. So I need to make it a var, and it says you want to fix that. So yeah, let it fix it. So.
Wait, how did you mutate it?
By setting BMI Calc to something after it was already initialized. Because remember, lets are constants,
Yeah.
so it was trying to assign a value to a constant beforehand. So that's better. I mean, you could play around with that all day. That looks pretty good, though. Isn't that fun? A lot easier than your 20 questions assignment, right?
Well, except for we're doing A1C1 next.
Yeah, next, yeah.
Not just simple BMI.
All right.
Oh, are we done?